Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
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 Good morning.
Good morning. I think we lost. I lose that song. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
We
Yes.
can hear you.
Yeah, it went silent for a little while. Yeah, I don't know what the hell happened there. You can still hear me though?
Yes.
Yep. Love
All
the
right.
hat and background. My gaming room, buddy. Nice. Trying to connect with my inner Max at 12 years old. Well, I wish that song got to play a little bit longer, because the message that I had today was why One Republic got it all wrong, and that it's never too late to apologize. One of the bloggers that kind of hits my inbox every day is Ryan Holiday. He writes two different blogs. He writes the Daily Stoic. I would say he's kind of the leader in the Stoicism realm, but he also writes the Daily Dad. And one of the messages that came across, I don't know, a week or two ago, maybe at this point, was around restoring maybe a broken relationship with a child. And it doesn't matter what age that relationship might be broken on or broken at. And they kind of one of the headlines, or if you will, in the story was an interview that he did, like an excerpt on from what's her name there, the Seinfeld lady there, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and she talked about an interview that she did with Time magazine on a relationship with her mom, and her parents had gotten separated apparently at an early age. And her mom at like 83 years old was just casually having a conversation with her. And she's like, I just wish we could have said some things or done some things a little bit different when, your dad and I were going through that relationship issue. And, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, her response was, it's never too late. Let's go have a conversation around this. And it was just interesting the way that she spoke about it. She went into detail about, 83 years old, there's still something that was bugging her mom. Her mom is afraid to talk about it. And she was open enough to say, you know what, let's get it out on the table. What are we waiting for? This is a mother-daughter relationship that should never have anything that's coming between us. And we should be able to be open and honest about all the issues and mistakes, and because we're going to make ton of them as parents. And I just thought, like, it doesn't even need to be parent-child relationships. This should really be for all relationships. What we're talking about, especially a lot on this call, is one of the things that really drives happiness and fulfillment and joy is our relationship with other human beings. And I kind of just wanted to bring it up today. There's a book that he referenced by, I think her name's Dr. Becky Kennedy. I was talking to my wife about this morning, and she's like, oh yeah, I know Dr. Becky. Apparently she has a pretty big Instagram following, and she's quite abrasive, I guess. But she'll point out situations where kids are just kind of running through some emotional situations, and as parents, we tend to come down pretty hard on those situations, or maybe not react the best way. And I guess she gives kind of maybe some tips on how to do that. But so Dr. Becky's book, if you're looking for more on that, is called Good Inside. But when you look at the different things that I just looked for some highlights from the book that she talks about, I think a lot of the repair strategies that she talks about can really be for any relationship that we've got going on. So hopefully, I'll kind of going to go through some of these repair strategies today that maybe you can use, and maybe this just highlights that there's a relationship in your life right now, whether it's parent-child or it's a family friend or extended family, that maybe you just want to take a look at and see if one of these things could potentially work. So first one is just the acknowledgement. Like, if both parties aren't going to acknowledge and be able to sit down and have a conversation, it's not going to work. I've got a relationship right now, as I was kind of going through this thought experiment, that I would like to repair, but I don't think the other person is open to it. And so unfortunately, I think I've just got to wait because I've made a couple of attempts, and hopefully time will fix that. I think some of these situations, that's the only thing that's going to help is just time. So I think both people kind of need to be open to it, to having that conversation, acknowledge, hey, like this should be a better relationship than it is right now. Validation of feelings would be, if we can get the sit down, just trying to be understanding of, here's why I felt that way. Why did you feel your way? And, feelings is not something, an area that I'm particularly strong at. I'm working hard at it, but I think that's definitely got to be the start of that conversation is, what made you feel the way you did? Just sitting there and listening and trying to take it. Maybe going back and discussing the incident of how did you see it from your side? How did they see it from their side? Was another strategy. Collaborating on the solution. Hey, we both acknowledged, we've kind of talked about it. How do we want to handle this moving forward? If this situation that caused this were to come up again, how are we going to handle it differently? So putting some guidelines out there for the future. Reaffirming that commitment. So maybe there can be a ritual or something that you are doing moving forward to saying, hey, I'm committed to this relationship. Here's, whether it's your kid and it's a daily hug or something that you guys, a handshake or something that is, hey, we're good. So those are some of the strategies on kind of how to attack this. And I guess I'll finish with, I think this can even apply in our real estate world, right? Like the number one thing that the best agents do is they're able to build relationships, build trust, and you're going to make some mistakes in a deal, right? And potentially those mistakes for an agent who's not educated in this field or isn't, good at mending, you might lose that client. But if you're strong on this skill set, even a mistake, hopefully you can get through it. You can retain the client, and potentially get another sale and all the referrals that come out of it. So, look, we're going to make mistakes in our personal lives, in our parenting lives, in our real estate lives. I think just that it's never too late to repair them, to come back to them, and see if we can create a better future with it. So, anybody have any comments, or maybe you've been through something recently and wanted to share? Anybody restored anything recently? Anybody have a relationship now that they're, hey, you know what? I do have to do something here, right? Like we can all die tomorrow. We don't want to die or get into a position where we can't mend. Frankie.
Yeah, that's true. Back in 2010, my uncle died, and my dad and my other uncle drove to Alabama to go for the funeral. The night before Thanksgiving, me and my cousin went out, hung out till like 4 o'clock in the morning. Came back, and the next morning, my uncle Dave and my dad just ripped into me. They just ripped into me for God knows whatever reason. So I took a bus back from Alabama, came home, and I hadn't talked to my father for months. And then I decided I was going to go see him. That was on a Sunday. I'm like, I'm going to go see him this week. He died on Tuesday. Never got to apologize.
Yeah.
So it's very important. Everything you said is very important. Just not letting pride get in the way of mending a relationship that you're supposed to have, because you never know. They could just die tomorrow, and that's it. That's it.
Well, Frankie, not an easy one to share. I appreciate you being a little vulnerable there and coming out and sharing. And I think there's I think most of us probably have at least one relationship in our lives right now that maybe we just need to take a deeper look at and see if we need to take some action on. It's not easy, right? These are difficult conversations. And like I said, sometimes the other party just isn't even open to it. And at that point, I don't think there's much you can do, but I think it's at least can make you feel better if you know you're at least reaching out and trying to mend. Anybody else want to just share an experience around this, or that might help somebody else that's going through something? Sue?
Well, when I divorced, my ex and I weren't talking, and when my daughter was pregnant, we sat down together and went over things of how things were going to go. And since then, we've get together for dinner, lunch, a couple of drinks, and there's been a lot of apologizing for what happened in our marriage and why it broke down. So doing those things will help your relationship with someone else. And I have a great relationship with him, but we just can't be together. And we acknowledge that.
Yep. Thanks for sharing, Sue. Who else has something to add to this conversation? All right, well, we'll leave it there. I hope it just shed some light for you guys. I don't think there's anything more important than the close relationships that we have. Those bonds, the deep bonds. You can meet all the people that you want. There's a difference between a friend that you started to have yesterday and a family member that you've had a relationship with for 30, 40 years. A high school friend that's a 30-year relationship. Like, those are just deeper bonds, and maybe because they're deeper bonds, they can be more difficult to mend. But they're I definitely believe these bonds, these deep bonds, the people that we can count on, are so important for that happiness and the fulfillment factor. So let's move over to some real estate. Who has got an experience to share on a deal or a lesson learned or something they're struggling with? Margareta.
Morning, all. Actually, it's something I came across recently, and I really have not seen this. Deed restricted. Can we talk about that a little bit? It's actually for more of an income, but who puts that on? How does this really happen? I have no idea anything about this.
You have to give me some more detail, Margareta. Where are you seeing?
Yeah, so this is actually on a property in East Long Meadow that's currently on the market. It's a single family, and it appears to be, I forget the street. They're single family homes, and there's like an application process. It's for a certain income level to apply to even submit an offer, and they're calling it deed restricted, like requirements around it. I've never came across that.
I have never come across that either, Margareta. Anybody familiar with this? I know there are programs out there. I'm not aware of one in East Long Meadow, but programs out there where they're building communities for low-income housing. Right, we're trying to make affordable housing in this country, and so it could be that there's something on the deeds that says this is who can buy this, and some investors can't just swoop in and grab it. Is my guess. Tracy, sounds like you might have some experience.
Yeah, I actually know which property you're talking about, Margarita. I actually
Yeah, it's on the
had a client.
Lawrence line.
Oh,
Go ahead,
sorry
I'm
about
sorry.
that. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. That's exactly the one. I had a client who reached out about that one too. And first thing I did was I saw the notes about deed restrictions. I've done it before. It's basically exactly what Steve said. It's for first-time home buyers who are in a certain price range. And I really wish there was more of these out there, to be honest with you. How many of us have had clients who've been in the price range? They make a good offer, and then somebody comes in who's an investor or a second homeowner, who swoops out from under us and takes that property, and it kind of really prices a lot of first-time home buyers out of the market. So that particular property is only for first-time home buyers, and it is like, I think it's what, 61,000 is the max income for a single
Yeah,
person, and then it goes
something
up from
around
there.
60s.
Yeah,
Depends on the
yeah.
family size.
Yeah, yep, exactly. So yeah, so that's what that is. But yeah, I mean, we don't have enough housing like that. It's not particularly like really low income, but there are some housing in Holyoke that the newer homes they built over where the projects were that had deed restrictions. So it kind of it really just helped people who just need a hand up out of the rental cycle and into home ownership.
But who puts that? So is it who puts that deed? Is it because it's by government ruled? I mean, somebody there is some association fee which is very low, like $35. But where does this restriction come from? Because I mean, I didn't look into the deeds. I didn't get into that far, but
Looks like we got a couple people familiar with it. So let's, Lori, I saw your hand go up first.
Sorry, my unmute button wasn't working there. In Florida, we have a ton of deed restricted communities, so I don't know if it means the same thing here, but it can mean anything. It can mean deed restricted is that everyone needs to take care of their lawn or they get fined. It's just whatever those deeds restrictions happen to be for each individual community. It's not ever financial here, so I don't know if they're the same thing or not. And that's the builder or developer that decides if they want it deed restricted or not.
and who monitors this then? Like who's going to come out as the
It's
lawn police?
it's going to be the association, so the HOA, or if there's or if it's a condo association.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think these are, I think Margareta, they're a little bit more, and I see your hand, Amber, I'll get to you. A little more common where you have more of these HOAs that can control this stuff. Quick, just ChatGPT search says that when they're doing it with regards to income, there's typically criteria that will be based in the deed based on the median income for that area. So maybe it'll be 60%, 80% of the median income is who can apply. And then there'll be resale restrictions so that you can't buy one of these and then sell it off to an investor or something like that. So I think that's what we're shooting for. And I'm with you, Tracy. I think we need more of it. So Amber.
So I had spoken about this a couple months back, probably, I don't know, probably December. I was helping my friend buy a house. There was nothing in the MLS at all. And they happened to, he's an electrician, so he happened to be working on a house on that road. And the neighbor had told him about a deed restriction. So I reached out to the listing agent. She had no idea. According to her, the sellers told her nothing. So I did have to search the deed. It's basically just a cul-de-sac. The guy who owned the land basically put this into the deed on all the properties that are there. I'm wondering if maybe he built his house originally and wanted these rules in place on that land. So basically they couldn't have any lettered trucks. They could not have an RV on their property. And this isn't like a, lake view, we expect it with an HOA, condo associations, gated communities, lake communities. This was just a regular old cul-de-sac. And it was in the deed for 30 years. And then after, which is coming up, I think in 2 or 3 years, after that, the majority can vote and decide whether it's going to stay for another 20. So again, you're buying, a $500,000 house on a cul-de-sac. And if the neighbor hadn't told us, we wouldn't have known. So it kind of freaks me out. Like, should we be checking every deed?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. Obviously checking every deed can get time consuming, but I think this is the type of stuff that's going to happen when you're doing the title research. I'm assuming that that's part of the check, but I don't know for sure. So I'm assuming that you're not going to get to closing and not know about these things. It should be done either by the title company or by the attorney when they're reviewing the deed. So
Well,
Uh,
like in this particular property, that like I looked into it, like it seemed like to submit an offer, you have to mail it to Boston. So, I mean, I did not reach out to agent. I just wanted to bring this up here because I've never come across anything like this, and it's just like very. How are they going to decide who gets this? You know, I mean, it's just a little bit out there.
Yeah, also just looking at the ChatGPT stuff, it says, looks like a lot of municipalities will use these as they try and work on new housing developments. They'll just say, hey, you know, in this community, it has to be deed restricted. Here's what we're looking for. So they're looking for developers to come up with unique ways to create affordable housing in their community. I was actually just reading an article the other day about my new favorite company, Costco. So Costco is doing affordable housing development in San Francisco, where obviously we've got an affordable housing crisis. So I think it's 800 units that they're doing. My guess is it's going to be deed restricted like this. And then so it's like this whole community that they're building, and it is, there's like a Costco on site. And I guess they may, you know, have special items in this Costco that will cater to that community. So it's interesting, you know. I do feel like Costco is one of these companies that's trying to do the right thing, and it was an interesting concept. They kind of had you know, like the blueprints of what the plan would look like, and they had some renderings, and it looked pretty neat. You know, it looked pretty neat. So we shall see. Anybody else with thoughts on this, or is somebody you want to bring something else to the table? Doreen.
Yeah, according to the income restriction, I came across that in not my real estate life, but my personal life when I was living in the Keys. And it takes me to Habitat for Humanity. And that's how they managed to get families into single family homes, is that they will buy a piece of land that's owned by the county, and they have to abide by certain guidelines, and they can only appeal to certain income families for exact that reason to you know, offer affordable housing to people, because the middle class is being run out, especially here in Florida, South Florida. It's horrible. So just to get back to Margareta, that can't be bought or sold by anybody else other than someone with a income restriction, for that reason that families can't be displaced, and which is what's happening in all of South Florida. And it's just horrible. But I would think along the lines of Habitat for Humanity, and they don't just do communities, they do single family homes and communities. And so that's probably where that's coming from, something similar, where it is probably governed by the, you know, same as rent restrictions. It'd be the same, probably governed by the state.
Great. Thanks for sharing, Doreen. Who else has got something? So,
Okay, so the offer that I put in the other day, the agent loved it. Now my buyer came back and said, I forgot this. He's a roofer, and the house needs a new roof, and he would like to put in that, you know, he could do the roof at cost for the sellers. And I don't know how to do that, because he's waived inspections, signed that he's gonna take the property as is. So I have no
so
idea how to do that.
are you saying that you don't think he can't get the financing because of this roof? Like
No,
prior to close, we need a new roof?
No, he's done roofs for the last 15 years. And he did notice that the roof needs a new roof. And then
I guess I'm questioning, why does the new roof need to be part of the transaction? Why can't he, after he purchases it, just
do it himself?
just put it on himself?
Well, he was hoping to have the seller pay for the materials. I don't know. That's what he could do it himself.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, so he knows it needs a new roof, but he's trying to see if he can get the materials paid for. I mean, I think the only way you would do that is you'd ask for some sort of a seller concession. So do you already have concessions in the deal?
No.
Yeah, so let's say the roofing materials are going to cost $5,000 for the materials, let's say.
Yeah.
Right. So we're just going to do a seller concession for $5,000 towards closing costs, points, prepaids, escrows.
Okay.
Right. That's money that he would have had to bring to the table at closing.
Right. Okay.
And now he's going to keep that in his, savings account, and he's going to close. They're going to pay those closing costs, and now he's got the $5,000 to buy the materials.
Okay.
But did you mention, Sue, that the offer was as is?
As is.
Why does that matter, Corey?
Well, if you're putting an offer in as is and it got accepted, and now you're saying you want credit for a roof, so you got to make sure you have that conversation with the other agent as to why now are you coming back for credit.
Yeah. This would be, you're going to have to increase the purchase price, Sue, by whatever he thinks the materials are going to cost, right?
Okay. Yep.
So hey, we've got to, everybody wants to do the deal at 300,000. Let's go 305 with 5,000 back.
Okay.
Because the sellers aren't going to want to net any less than they currently have.
Right. We haven't, it's not accepted yet. We're waiting till the highest and best by Friday. So.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
I mean, in theory, I wouldn't be, if he can do the roof, it's just tight. Like, I wouldn't be trying to negotiate seller concessions into the deal right now. My strategy, and if somebody's got a different one, is always, let me just try and get the deal put together at 300 with nothing back. Once I get the deal, now I go to the sellers and say, hey, look, here's the deal. My guy would love to keep $5,000 in his bank account. Can we go 305 with 5 back? If it doesn't appraise, we'll do the deal at 300. Like if it doesn't appraise and the money's not there, then we'll do the deal at 300.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Nicole, I think I saw your hand up. Did you have something to add?
It was kind of a mix of what you and Corey had said. I was misunderstanding. I thought the deal was already accepted. And I've had agents come to me recently with that scenario where a deal does get accepted and then the buyer starts questioning, oh, it got accepted so quick. Did I, put in too high of an offer, or should we have asked for this or that? And so I just think not so much in Sue's case because it hasn't been accepted yet, but just we really need to be making sure we have detailed conversations with our buyers in this market that if it gets accepted, you're comfortable with this offer. Because changing it after it gets accepted is not acceptable, especially when there's multiple offers.
Anybody else with any thoughts on this scenario, a different way to approach it or something else that you've seen done? All right, we are up against it. Great banter today. I hope we've got some good negotiation skills out there to put a deal together and figure out a way when necessary to. Oh, Jeff and Linda, what do you got?
I just wanted to circle back to the beginning of the conversation, and I had a scenario where it wasn't necessarily a relationship that had to be mended, but it was one that hadn't had a lot of attention. And so last February, my ex-father-in-law's health was declining, and all of a sudden it took a very significant turn, and he was in the hospital, and I had been calling my mother-in-law, checking in on them regularly, and again, things were going, it seemed to be declining very quickly. His daughter was coming in from out of town, and I had this thought, and I said, Susie, would it be possible when you get to town, would you please let me FaceTime with Grandpa? And so she did. And I got him on, And I said everything that I truly, truly wanted to say. And we had this beautiful conversation where I reminisced with him about what an amazing grandpa he had been and all these delightful moments in my children's lives with him. And I pulled up pictures and I was showing him pictures from, do you remember, when, we took the kids to the Mall of America and my son was up on your head and he was holding onto your hair and he's drooling down. He was just a little baby. Like we just went through all these different things and we had this beautiful conversation and he felt free to say so many things that were so beautiful that he had never said about how proud he was of his grandchildren. But even something more touching, he had never once said to my ex-husband, I never heard him say, I am so proud of you. And he was just telling me, like, he just felt at ease to say all these gorgeous, beautiful things that he had never said before. And we had this lovely conversation and I thanked him so much for being such an awesome, awesome grandpa and for being such a lovely person and how much I loved him. And he died the next day. And when I tell you what a gift that was to me, and I know it was a gift to him. And what broke my heart was that at that very moment in time, my ex-husband had taken my youngest daughter to Ireland for spring break. And he didn't get to have that conversation with his dad. But I was able to share with him, your dad was so proud of you, right? And the man you became and the life you created and the excellent father you have been. Like, the blessing is, there's just no words for it. So if anybody gets the opportunity to have these conversations, take it, jump on it, right? You won't regret it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for closing this one out with that story, Linda. What an amazing story. And I think these relationships are the most important thing. And it comes back to, I think it was yesterday's show where we talked about the memory dividends. I mean, just going through that scenario again, you got the great conversation when you had it. And now you've got the memory dividend, probably multiple times since then, definitely right now. And it just, the hit of dopamine that we get, the feeling that we get, and, you're going to go have an amazing Thursday now. So thanks for sharing. Hopefully it encourages somebody to go take action that was on the call, and appreciate y'all. We'll go get it again tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Take care.